There's one more team I want to talk about, and it makes a lot of sense to me. It's the Green Bay Packers. I said before, Garrett's 29 years old. He's coming off a 14-sack season, the first player in the history of the NFL to have 4 straight 14 or more sack seasons. He's gone 16, 16, 14, 14. Currently under contract through 2026. $25 million per year is what he's making right now. That's 5th among top edge rushers. Nick Bosa's at first at $34 million. So wherever Garrett does end up going, that next contract is probably going to be ahead of Nick Bosa. I mean, it's a huge contract, but there's a reason that edge rushers are paid this premium. They're extremely important, right? If I'm Green Bay, I think I'm going all in on this. I was talking to my friend Josh, who's a big Packers fan, and I was saying 3 first-round picks. Now, that's I think I got a little bit ahead of myself. But if the asking price starts at 2, right, and that's reasonable to start at 2, and then it's adding in like a third or something else, I'm doing it if I'm the Packers, man. I mean, they've been unbelievable drafting over the past few years in rounds that are not the round 1 as well. So think about this. Would you trade Myles Garrett? And this is me being over generous and offering the 3 first-round picks, which I don't think the Packers would do. I'm not advocating for that anymore. I'm pulling back a bit. But let's say it is 3 first-round picks, okay? Will you trade Jordan Morgan, Lucas Van Ness, and Quay Walker for Myles Garrett right now? That's your last 3 first-round picks. And in those drafts, here are your players drafted outside of round 1 by Brian Gutekunst. Edrin Cooper, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks, Carrington Valentine, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbare, Rasheed Walker. All of them after round 1. I mean, you guys have dominated there. You've absolutely dominated post round 1 recently. First round picks are extremely valuable. I totally get that. But players like Myles Garrett are unicorns. They do not come around very often, if ever, for certain franchises. So right now, outside of cornerback, depending on what happens with Jair in Green Bay, they don't really need depth, right? They need studs. There's not a lot of holes on this roster. We talked about this on a recent show. They need guys that push them over the edge. And in particular, you need one at edge. You need a pass rusher. It's pass rusher and receiver. Those would be the 2 positions. You need to fill out cornerback and figure that out, but it's pass rusher, stud receiver. Everyone's talked about T. Higgins. We've said it a million times on this show, but edge rusher is another one. That gives you the best chance to win next year, to go get a stud there. And you're talking about in Myles Garrett, one of the best edge rushers in all of football, if not the best, right? Can you think of another time in history with the Packers where they made an aggressive move for an older pass rusher? How about adding 32-year-old Reggie White to the 3rd most expensive contract in the NFL, only behind Dan Marino and John Elway? 4 years and at the time, $17 million. I think that worked out pretty well, right? Would you say 2 first-team All-Pros, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, 4 second-team All-Pros, and a Super Bowl trophy worked out? I probably would. It's an aggressive move going after a 32-year-old pass rusher, giving him the 3rd biggest contract in the NFL. But look what it got you. Look at Reggie White's career in Green Bay. I know he's Reggie White. I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone who's going to get on here and say it's Reggie White. We're talking about a top 5 defensive player ever. Guys, Myles Garrett is pretty close to that level, if not on it. As one of he'll go down as one of the best of all time. And he's 29. He's 29. Reggie White, I guess his longevity went on to 35, 36 years old. He won Defensive Player of the Year, and what was he, 36, I think? Like, that's unbelievable. He might have been 37 or 38, actually. It's crazy. He is a unicorn of all unicorns. But Myles Garrett could be like that. You ever see the video where they're in the Browns facility talking about Myles Garrett at 14 years old? They pull up the picture in front of the entire team, and he's just jacked. This guy's a freak. Go watch his highlights. If you're not familiar with Myles Garrett's game, go watch his highlights. Go look at his statistics. The dude's unbelievable. We talked about TJ Watt and how he is a game changer for the Steelers, how he could basically be their Patrick Mahomes at times. Myles Garrett's like that. If you add him to this Packer defense, that's really good to begin with. They have studs in Xavier McKinney. Edrin Cooper's going to be a stud. They're missing that stud on the D-line. Myles Garrett would be it. And How do you mess up the Lions, right? Get after Jared Goff. How did you mess up the Vikings this year? Get after Sam Darnold. We're talking about one of the best offensive lines in Detroit in the entire league. Two of the best tackles in the league in Darisaw and Brian O'Neill for the Vikings. You know, the Bears are their own story. But Caleb got sacked 68 times or whatever this year. That blew up his rookie season. Got to get pressure on the quarterback, especially in this division where Jared Goff and the Lions are at the top. And you got to get to him. If you don't pressure Goff, he'll pick you apart. When you pressure him, he makes mistakes. That's how they lose games, when you get after Goff. It's hard to do it, though, because they have the best offensive line in football, or the second best, maybe behind Philly. So you have to be willing to make an aggressive move here. And I just think it's a perfect situation for Green Bay. One of the best to ever do it is available at a position of need in a time where your window is open, and he could be the final piece. That's why I'd be, look, I know a lot of Packers fans don't think that they do it or don't think they should. I'd trade 2 first-round picks easily. You heard all the picks that I told you got in post-round 1. You've been unbelievable there. Now, I hope they don't. I would hate to see Myles Garrett. I think a lot of times the philosophy that I'm starting to take on is the right decision for the team that I'm playing against or the team that I'm rooting against is probably the move that would make me the most unhappy, right? If you're watching a game and it's 4th and 2, you're like the Packers are on the Vikings 45-yard line. I don't want the Packers going for it. I want them punting the ball to us. The right decision is probably to go for it then. In this case, I don't want Myles Garrett going to Green Bay. Now, if the Packers offered 5 first-round picks, sure. But if you could get a reasonable deal, 2 seconds, and then, or 2 first-round picks, and then throw in some other things, I'd be pissed off. So now we have to go against Myles Garrett for the next 6 years. So I hope it doesn't happen. But if I were Green Bay, like try and win the Super Bowl, right? You need to figure some things out on offense. Jordan Love needs to get back to the level of elite quarterback. Having Myles Garrett helps take some pressure off. Helps you get off the field a few times, and that's going to make life miserable for your NFC North opponents. So we'll see what happens. I think they should do it. I don't know how the money will work out if they go after a receiver as well. Packers have a good amount of cap space, so I think they'll be okay. It'd be crazy to me to at least not even inquire and try and get something.